Hi, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Andre The Beast Crayton Show. Today, I am excited that we have in studio today Mr. Comedian himself, Mr. Terry Shepard is in the house, and he's going to take us through his journey of what he did for his real profession and how he basically got into that beast mindset and said, you know what, I'm going to do something different, and got into another profession. Terry, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's get right down to it. We've been sitting here just enjoying our drinks, you with your bourbon and me with my Pellegrino orange. Tell the viewers a little bit about you real quick.
Like I mentioned, I do comedy. I've been in this going on 5 years now, doing stand-up. And then prior to that, and still kind of right along with that, I've been a mortgage banker for about 28 years. But like I said, I've been into writing films, producing films, and had a lot of comedy friends, and I thought maybe I could do that. So I just got that bug in me.
How did you go? Let me back up a minute. Have you always been funny?
I think so. My kids, my wife maybe not agree with me, but yeah.
So you're born and raised in Indianapolis, Indiana?
Mm-hmm.
What school you attend?
I graduated from Franklin Central.
Okay.
So
What was it like growing up in our time? Because we're about the same age. What was it like?
In the late 80s, when I was in school, I went from being in the suburbs, and I lived in Beech Grove, which was pretty segregated.
Right.
And then moved to Franklin Township, where it was pretty, it was a good mix of people. So it definitely opened my eyes to other cultures that I had never been around before. So that was that. And so then I was really into hip hop at that time.
Okay.
Because that was
What's your favorite hip hop groups back then?
Back then, I got to see Public Enemy when they were here in town. So, I liked Digital Underground. And,
Okay.
Yeah.
When did comedy set in for you? Because which we're gonna get into, you can't. I just find it funny that you go from banking into something that really requires a lot of devotion and, to me, I think a hell of a lot of skills, because I think I'm funny to some degree, but me saying it and me doing it, performing it, is a whole different ballgame. When did you realize that you really had a passion for comedy, and when did you have the passion for banking? Because those are two really, really awesome careers if they're managed right.
Yep. Yeah. And they also are really different sides of your brain.
Yeah.
Right
and left.
Yeah, right and left. And, although certain aspects of banking is sales and personality and just, making a connection with people. Same thing with comedy. It's just your personality, being true to yourself and making a connection with people. So, there's some similarities, even though they're completely different paths.
Right.
But, when I meet with a customer and they want to purchase a home, we have to get to know each other, and they have to trust me. When I get in front of an audience, for them to, they have to trust me, so they have to kind of get to know me a little bit.
Right.
So, there's some similarities there.
Because you grew up from a suburb to diversity, how does that perfect both of your careers? Does that make any sense? Like, how do you take, coming from the suburbs and then going to, in the 80s were totally different for both of us, and getting older and putting that together to be great at banking and mortgage lending and being great as a comedian as well?
I think it getting to know people and figuring out that all the commonalities that we have. I think we have a lot more similarities than we do differences, no matter where you came from. So I think that kind of helps when you to relate, to sit down across from a customer. We may not have come from the same places, but at least we have that commonality, humanality, I guess. We're all human beings. We've all had similar life experience.
Right.
And the same thing with comedy. It's a lot of fun. I'm in an interracial marriage, so.
You can't tell me that when you walk through the door.
So I think sometimes I can be in a room that maybe is mostly a black room, performing comedy, and just because my wife's family and how, you know, that dynamic, you know, I can say I was invited to the cookout, and then the audience immediately knows, okay, well, at least he's comfortable
Right.
around this group, you know. So.
What did your, let's back up a minute. How did you meet your wife? That's interesting. How did you meet your wife?
Well, it's a story as
You
old
want
as
some more
time.
bourbon?
It's a story as old as time, really. We met on the internet.
Okay. What year was this?
We met in, I think, '09.
Okay.
Yeah. And we got married a couple years after that. But yeah, we met on like Match.com or whatever. Yeah.
Really? Were you surprised that you guys matched? What was it that you think drew her to you and you to her?
You know, she's attractive and she's smart. You know, she's an IT. You know, she's way smarter than I am.
Okay.
So I think it was just that, you know, we had some similarities, and it was one of those things where you had to pay. You know, you had to pay for this. You know, and I was on there for a few months, and I was a single dad. I didn't really date anyone from the the personals or whatever, and I was getting ready to just cancel it. I'm like, oh, that's another bill I don't need. And then we went out on a date, and
that's
that was
how
it.
she rolled.
Yeah.
You mentioned something that I think is pretty amazing. You was a single dad before you met her, correct?
Yep.
What's it like being a single dad for you?
Well, I think the biggest difference between single moms and single dads is single dads make about 18% more.
I'm being quiet on that one.
No. You know, it was a challenge, and I didn't have a lot of free time then. You know, I was really just working, coming home, taking care of the kids.
So you have two girls?
No, I have a son and a daughter.
Son and daughter. Is there a difference in raising them?
Mm-hmm. A little bit, yeah.
What is it?
Well, you know, I don't know. I think people may agree with me. You have kids? I think boys are easier.
I raised my daughter
Okay.
and single dad, and
Yeah.
you know, I can't tell if there's a difference really between raising a boy or a girl. I'm thinking from a girl, you become as a father, you probably get more. I think more protective.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're always like you don't want some. I guess with a boy, you feel like okay, you tough it up, sort of. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, with my son, things were a little easier, maybe just because I'm a man, you know, so I understand what he was going through. But also, yeah, there was probably that where I just kind of let him do things and learn.
Right.
And her, I felt like, oh, I want to protect my little girl, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
I think that might have been one of the things that attracted your wife to you. What do you think? She saw that compassion?
Maybe, yeah.
So let's move forward a little bit. So you're in the banking industry. When did the lateral shift change for you? Because to go into comedy, there had to be something inside that says I can do this.
Yeah. And I think, you know, as a hobby, while I was really, I mean, I'm still a banker, still do, you know, I still help people buy and sell homes.
I know, that's why you said you got to leave after, you know.
I mean, a realtor, so maybe just a little less bourbon. But who knows? Maybe that'll just lead to another sale. I don't know. But,
so what was it, how difficult was it for you to transition, and what made you do the transition?
you know, I kind of think, I read a book by Wayne Dyer, who's like a motivational type guy.
Okay.
And he said that don't die with your story still inside you.
That's deep.
Yeah. And I think that I thought, well, you know, and I have friends in the industry that are comedians and actors, and I was kind of in that world already.
Right.
But it was a kind of a weekend warrior type thing.
Right.
And you know, I just thought, go for it. You know,
What was
you're
the
not gonna
story
be
inside you? Because that's a particular phrase that you remembered wholeheartedly. What story are you trying to get out to resonate to your audience? Because that was pretty profound. You mentioned just that particular word. What story was inside you that you wanted to bring out to your audience?
And I think maybe it's the being a single dad,
Okay.
the being a husband, being a granddad, you know, my wife and I have 7 grandkids because my stepson's pull-out game is trash. But, but I mean, you know, those kind of things that make me me, I think that other people can relate to. And so, I don't know, there's a, when you're in front of a group of people, a room of people, whether it's 5 people or 200 people, and you're telling stories or jokes and they're having a good time.
Right.
I don't know if it's any one story or other or it's just my story, you know, my voice out there that's helping them have a good time for an hour or two.
And you bring something different to the comedy scene too. I just thought about it. Today's our first day meeting, and I'm glad you took the time to come to the show and be on it and share your story. You bring a different perspective now to the comedy industry where your material. What's it like for you in an interracial relationship with with everything that's going on? Because it has to impact you as well as me, but a little bit different for you because you're white, she's black, interracial. What's that like for you, and how do you bring that aspect of your life without bringing too much of the personal stuff onto the stage?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, I mean, I can talk in generalities. Just I don't have to get too personal, but sometimes I do get personal. I mean, you know, just
you find you get more personal because people really want to be educated a little bit more, and because you're in that type of situation, you bring more of a life experience. You know, it's not like you just said, "Well, I read it in this book." You literally have lived and experienced a lot of this. You find that pretty common for what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I mean, there are comedians who are very successful that start out in their 20s and teens, and they're great and they can perform. But I think that maybe having started a little later and had all that life experience, I got a little bit more to talk about, you know, maybe as opposed to just whatever's topical.
What's some of the topics that you find that people are more intrigued with? That now that you're a comedian and you're in this field, that you go, wow, you know what? Over the years, because like you said, if you started then, it would have been a different thing. But now that you're older, you're getting topics that's coming at you that you might have said, wow, you know, I never really thought about that, but I can clearly elaborate on it and give you a better perspective. Give me some examples.
You know, I think having a couple of grown kids, you know, now, I can go back to different times in their lives and how in this moment I thought all was lost. We're not going to get through this. This is and then no, 20 years later, that was nothing. That was just a blip. I'm not quite sure what was the question.
That bourbon is a bug.
This is smooth.
No, like the question was, out of the years, you're experienced now, and you got into the game a little bit later, so you're bringing in a lot of experience. But what are some of the topics that you're finding are becoming a serious issue when you're on stage, that you have to bring the funny side of it to people?
You know, I talk about performing for a group of first responders one year, and how the chief of the fire department asked if I could roast the cops a little more than I do the firefighters.
And you took that role?
And I took that role, and I said, you know, and I told him, nobody ever wrote a song called "Fuck the Fire Department." Like this is, like this is. So, excuse my language.
But, you're fine.
Okay, but that's not gonna be hard. That's not gonna be a hard job. Like, you know, who would you rather have show up when you need it?
Right. The police. Hey, you know, I'm getting robbed, or my house is burning down.
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Like, what was the outcome?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I mean, I poked fun at everybody equally. But it was certainly a few of the jokes that I made were probably a little bit more. You know, the officers were probably a little bit like, you know, did
you get pulled over when it was all said and done?
That was my fear on the way home. Like, I thought, how many of these whiskey and cokes did I drink tonight? Like, should I maybe hang out for a while and drink a few waters before I leave?
What was one of the most memorable moments that you had since you've been on stage? Because this is new to you, but there's always
Yes,
that
pretty new.
one particular moment that you go, "Wow, this is truly exciting."
There are a couple.
Give me three.
Okay, I'll give you three. One, I met a lady in Ohio at like an American Legion or something, and it was a fun crowd, and there were maybe 100 plus people in there, so it was a good audience, because sometimes we perform for 10 people, you know. And she came up after the show and asked if she could buy me a drink. She was 80 years old, and she hadn't been out of the house in 2 years due to COVID, and she had lost her husband and her sister during that time, and her niece had really dragged her out of the house that day. And it was pretty awesome, because she was just happy, and it was like even reciting things I had said earlier.
So she's a major fan.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You as a comedian, you're independent, right?
Yeah.
How do you, without giving your secrets, like how do you manage that? Like you performed in front of 100 people, and you're going here. How hard is that for you to juggle a wife, kids, banking, and your own happiness at the same time?
It can be a challenge, but I try to just keep my schedule, and if I feel like I went to 5 open mics in a week and I'm just grinding and I have no, emotionally I'm drained, then I'm like, okay, well, let's just step back and next week not go out, or unless I have just a book show, hit that, don't do any mics for the week, stay at home, that kind of.
How do you pick which shows you want to do? And is your wife involved in the selection of some of the tours that you do? And does she go with you? Like, what's the process? Because you just, like you said, you just want to go to this open mic, to this, and this, and this, and this. How do you determine what you want to do?
Well, I try to absolutely not say no to a booked show.
I like the way you said that.
I mean, because it's an opportunity, and usually there's pay involved, and it's a good chance to perform in front of people who haven't seen you before.
Right.
So I try never to say no to that. But to open mics, you just kind of have to figure out what am I getting from this? Like, am I working on new material? Am I polishing stuff I've already perfected, or just trying to learn new things? Or am I just there to see my friends who are comedians?
Right.
What am I? And there's nothing wrong with any of those things, but if I'm just going to the same mic and doing the same material, would my time be better spent at home writing for an hour?
Speaking of supporting your friends in the field, you shared with me a beautiful story with a person that we both met, but you opened up for him. Share that with the viewers a little bit. Your first encounter with. I guess he's a major celebrity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, same to me, and I never would have thought it. So there is a local comedy manager and promoter named Ike in town. That it was his birthday, and he had a show in Fort Wayne, and he said, if you come out, I'll get you on stage. And I said, no problem. I want to celebrate your birthday anyway.
Right.
And he said, Tommy Davidson's headlining, and so he puts me up, and they had forgot to bring me out early on, so they really brought me out right before him.
Right.
And which is kind of like the people were expect. They were like, we're not here for this guy.
Were you nervous?
Maybe a little bit, but kind of the more you go up there, the more it's just kind of.
So you had already been up on stage a couple of times.
Yeah.
But you get ready to be opening or be a part of a show with Tommy Davidson.
Yeah, it was great, and I mean, I had my 7 minutes or whatever of fame, and everybody laughed, all my jokes landed when they were supposed to.
Right.
And then afterwards, after the show was over, he said, "You're a brave man." That was.
Why did he say you was a brave man?
I think just because of the way they placed me in the lineup. I don't know.
Now he was just coming off of several movies at that time, Joanna Man and some other things. Were you aware of who he actually was?
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember as a teenager watching In Living Color, and got to really enjoy his comedy then, and throughout the years see his career. So
What do you think? We sat here before we actually started the show, and I shared my viewpoint with what's trending now, the Cat Williams thing, and I clearly shared with you. I wish he had did his explanation about the industry on other platforms besides the Shannon Sharp one. I'm not knocking the Shannon Sharp, but the bottom line is when you're dealing with sponsorship dollars and so forth, you kind of like almost have to script to not lose the chains or the coins. If he was sitting here now, you're a comedian. What kind of questions would you have asked him and why?
Well, I'm a fan of Cat Williams. I mean, I enjoy his comedy, and he seems like a really genuine guy. But he also seems like he might
be onto something.
Might be onto something. Yeah.
Yeah.
so I mean, he's been in the industry a while. So why? And there's probably no reason for him to embellish. I mean, he maybe embellishes some things because he's a storyteller.
Right.
But for the most part, I think all his bullet points were truths, that what he's witnessed in the entertainment industry, I'm sure, it's his story.
If you had two questions to ask him, what would you ask? That wasn't asked on that show, because I told you the stories, the questions I would have asked. But if you got three questions, yeah, what would you have asked? Because you're in this industry.
Can I do some dates with you? like, can I, whatever you need, I'll do 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the show. That would be the first one, probably. Because I heard he's a generous, he's generous with other comedians.
Okay.
I've heard that. But then I would just ask him, like, what advice would you give someone who is this age and starting out? I know he's been doing this for some time.
Okay.
I imagine there's no real shortcuts.
Right.
But I imagine also that there are ways to leapfrog over some things, or at least get from point. Some people the journey may take them 10 or 15 years before they get to do a tour like that. And some people it may never happen.
Right.
And then there's probably some lucky internet sensation who 2 years into it can go. So I would probably ask him, "You got any advice for me?"
Okay. Because of what he shared with the world, pretty much, and this is your field now. What was your spin on this whole thing from a comedian standpoint? And more importantly, a two-part to this: what are you hearing from the other comedians that are in the industry about that? Because it's not like he's never said these things before, so it shouldn't come surprising to the people that follow the world of comedy. But what is your take on it, and what are you hearing from people in the industry?
I kind of think. I mean, I've heard people say, "Well, that's just Cat Williams." He's a wild card, and I've heard some comics say that. But for the most part, at least people that I hang out with more often, they agree. They're fans of Cat Williams. They'll watch any movie, any special that he does. So yeah, we just think, sure, there's probably some gatekeepers who are trying to push certain things that if you play along, they'll make it easier for you.
How hard is it, really? I mean, for a person who starts later in the career versus a person that starts newer. You bring experience to a table. Somebody else might be younger. What is the success key for a comedian? Or is there really a success key? Is it about knowing who holds the key to let you in? Is it about being in the right place at the right time? Is it about handing that one social? What's the key as far as you're concerned?
I don't know if there is a key. I mean, I think that probably if you're going to get there, it could probably take any one factor. I mean, I think you got to be likable. I think people have to like you to want to work with you. So if you work at a club and you're nice to everybody in there and you're personable and you don't get drunk and you don't harass the waitress, then they'll probably ask you to come back.
Now I know you've been asked to come back because you were nominated funniest comedian in Indiana.
I was in a
Explain that a
yeah.
little bit.
I was in a contest that Helium Comedy does here in
Okay.
Indy every year, where they have 100 comedians and several rounds of shows, and I made it to the semifinals.
Wow.
So that was fun. That was a
What
lot
was
of
that
fun.
like?
It was exciting, because people are there. When you do that show, there's usually 10 comics on that stage with you.
Right.
You've all brought friends and family. They're there to laugh. They laugh at anything and everything. Every comedian usually has, you got a hot crowd, so that makes it a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you do well and they want you, they vote you to come back the next week, then that's pretty
When you
exciting.
made the semifinals, what was the feeling like in your heart and in your house? Now you really want to go for the gold.
Yeah, now I want to go and do it next year and make it to the finals. And then, and this year a friend of mine named Aisha Brown, Aisha the comedian, won.
Yeah, I know Aisha. Yeah.
And she's a great friend and she's hilarious, and it was well deserved.
Right.
And I just think, I know she's been working hard at this for a long time, and so I never wanted to take anything from anybody, because I'm like, this was well deserved. Like, she got the crown, she deserved it.
What do you think when you walked away? Because you're new to the game.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around. When you walked away from that, and congratulations on making the semifinals, and Aisha Brown is definitely a legend. I'll call her a legend because she is funny. I met her numerous times. She's been on the show. What did you take away from that? And when you went home, what did you feel like you needed to perfect? What was some of the reasons that you felt that, because we all, even as an athlete, as a professional bodybuilder, when I don't win, I have to go back and reassess. What did you have to go back and reassess?
I watched my video. I knew one thing I did, and I think I was so excited and just in the moment that I went over my time. So I was disqualified.
Is that crucial?
It's crucial, yeah. So
Really?
in something like that, and if you're working at a club, it's the same thing. Everyone has a certain length of time that they do, and you can maybe go over by a few seconds.
What's usually the time? I didn't know that.
Well, in that particular contest, I think it was 8 minutes was my max on the semifinal thing, and I think or maybe 7 or something. I had blown my time by like 45 seconds.
Really?
And because I was just so into it, and I'm like, I got to tell him this next joke. I have to end on this one when I could have ended it prior to. And so watching what I did, I'm like, I think I was pretty good. I think I probably could have moved on.
Mm-hmm.
But so one thing I was just second guessing, was I good enough had I had not gone over my time, or would I have not?
Right.
But I don't think I would have changed much. I felt confident. It was fun. People, my jokes landed. I didn't spend a lot of time setting up a punchline before I delivered it, and I wouldn't step on my laughs. I'd let people kind of.
Who do you try your material on before you do it? You try it on your wife and your kids first to get
Sometimes,
ready?
yeah. Sometimes I do.
Are they honest, or do they just kind of like?
Oh no. Yeah, my wife will tell me she's not gonna pull any punches if it doesn't work. If it doesn't land, she's gonna be like, nah. Or she'll say, yeah, maybe.
How much time do you? This is something I've never asked a comedian. How much time do you put in developing a joke?
It can take some time, or some things can just come to you like that. I keep a notebook in my pocket, my phone.
Does a lot of your jokes come from just like you coming here to be on the show, or you in the grocery store and you see some? How do you format a lot of your material? Because like Aisha's material, Brown is, I believe, it's a lot based on her life.
Yeah.
But how do you craft your material? Is it just like a lot of your life, or you just see something, go, oh, that's funny, I'm gonna take it and spin it?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. Observational humor, just whatever you see during the day, or if I'm listening in the car and I hear a news story. I heard a story, and sometimes I follow conspiracy theories. I don't necessarily believe them,
Right.
but sometimes, it's fun to go down a rabbit hole and think, oh, this, kind of like a lot of the stuff that you hear Cat Williams saying,
Yeah.
And so The other day I heard that the Pentagon lost $2 trillion.
Right.
They couldn't find it. And the first thing that came to my mind, whether or not, was maybe they'll start running planes into buildings again,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
To raise money. Yeah. I get it.
So that was just an observation, like, off of my personal life. Like, I've watched, some.
Which material works better for you, in your opinion? Is it things that you come in contact with, or is more your life experiences?
Probably more of my life experiences. Just, being married, having kids. There's plenty to talk about. There's so much material that you can get in a day, and I try to write my stuff like around my day. So if I know, I'm going to work 8 hours today on my day job,
Right.
maybe I get up at 6, and from 6 to 7 I write.
Right.
And then maybe during my lunch break, I'll go back to some of my notes, and then when I clock out,
Right. It's done.
It's done.
It's done. What? Tell the viewers what you got going on now. Outside of comedian, you're about to embark in something new, another passion that you got, screenwriting and stuff. Tell me a little bit about that before we have to wrap up.
Sure. So I've written screenplays for years now, and I think that's what's gotten me into the comedy realm.
What are some of the screenplays that you've done?
So I've written some. I had one that was a buddy stoner comedy that got into a film festival in Los Angeles a few years back, and I wrote it. One of my friends who's a comic named Chris Shaw that lives in Vegas, he starred in it, and that's kind of how we became friends.
I was gonna say that name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he's been around for a while. He starred in it, got into the film festival, and then we kicked around ideas for other stories that we wrote. We wrote one called Black Friday, where a musician switches body, kind of one of those body switcher movies with his old white boss at work, and those kind of things. We've pitched them. We'll shoot things that are shorts that we can do on our own,
Right.
and then the feature-length stuff, we just try to get them out there and pitch them to any producer we can. I have one right now that is called One Last Rodeo, and it's about a retired porn star who...
Not the lady that just died.
No.
Okay.
It's about a lady who is getting inducted into the Adult Video News Hall of Fame. She won a Lifetime Achievement Award, and she has a conservative best friend at the retirement home who would flip her wig if she knew.
I would say, yeah.
But she uses her for her car to get so they can take a road trip to Vegas
Wow.
for her to get this award. And it's just a buddy comedy between these two women. One who's going to the Adult Video News to get her Lifetime Award, and the other one who's very conservative and religious and would freak out if she knew what the reason for the trip was.
Which one are you leaning more towards? Because both of them require a lot of time.
Yeah.
A lot of creativity. Which one are you more passionate about, to be honest?
It comes and goes. I think and maybe it's my ADHD mind, or maybe it's just with a creative mind where you find something you're passionate about,
Right.
and you just go balls deep with it.
Yeah.
And then maybe after a while you're like, okay, it isn't doing it for me the way it used to.
Right.
So, and that's kind of how the screenwriting went. I was really passionate about that for a while, where I'd wake up early, get my work in before I did my work day, and then the comedy is definitely more of you get a instant reaction. Like, I can write these jokes today, go on stage tonight, and do them.
What keeps you in that beast frame of mind? This is definitely a beast mindset. Banking, single father, newly married, diversified relationship, diversified.
I competed in a bodybuilding show once as well.
Okay, we're gonna go a few more minutes. What show was that?
I did the Mr. Indianapolis in 2006.
You didn't compete against me, did you?
No, I was a middleweight.
Oh, okay.
I was a little guy.
Okay, how did you do?
I didn't get the top 10, but it was fun. But I appreciate what you have been able to do, because it takes dedication and it's a complete lifestyle. I get that.
Yeah.
So when I finished that show, I went to Applebee's and I got like a cheeseburger and fries and a couple beers, and then I was like, I'm never gonna do that again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Wow, I remember the 2006 contest. I gotta
look back and see what place I got in that. I might have won my class if I'm not mistaken. But I'm glad that you shared that particular, because a lot of people don't realize how hard it is to be in that sport. You know, it takes a lot of. There's a lot of times where I wanted to get some cheesecake and was like, you know, that's not on the menu. What keeps you in that beast frame of mind? You done done so much, and thanks for taking the time out to come on the show. But what keeps you in that beast mindset?
You know, I just think I told you I don't want to die with that story inside me.
Yeah.
So I just want to leave it all out. I don't want to leave anything on the table. I just want to make sure that I can accomplish whatever is out there.
Close my show out. Leave the viewers with something that they will always not leave on the table. The only way you can.
The only way I can. All right. Well, I would just say, you know, if you find something that you're passionate about, just go for it. Figure out how to get it done, and just don't listen to anybody, because people will kind of get in your head and get to let that negative talk creep in, and just stay focused and do what you want to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another exciting episode of the Andre the Beast Crayton Show.